In a studio that's in a basement comes the epic story of how two friends changed the future of the movie podcast game forever. The reviews are in. Boys Life magazine gives the High Sci podcast 4.5 acorns. The Daily Bugle says, these guys are super legit. And Pope Francis declares the podcast as life-affirming. From the kid who tried to get smart with David Spade and got fucking owned.
You're still out. You're still bad.
And the guy who can name all four Baldwin brothers.
Alec, William, Daniel, and the baby boy, Stephen.
Live from the studio of his parents' basement. The Have You Seen It podcast.
Welcome back to the Have You Seen It podcast. My name is Mason Knight, and sitting across from me is the one, the only, Cash Kraus.
Yes, I'm here, alive. We made it another week in 2020, and that's quite an achievement.
Absolutely. You're always ending on a positive note or beginning the week on a positive note.
Yes.
Should I say?
Absolutely. And we're having, what a treat. What a treat today.
This
is what you would call a hidden gem. Not a lot of people have done reviews on this one.
No, not too many.
Yeah.
This was really, we had to go deep into the archives.
We did. I was scrounging around through the RKO vault. That's who did the production, of course.
Right, of course.
And I saw one in the very back, dusted it off, read, and it read, Citizen, am I pronouncing this right? Citizen Kane? Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane.
Oh, it's a hard K.
It's a hard C with the...
It's a hard K sounding. Citizen. Yeah, we are doing Citizen Kane.
Yes.
And how odd that is to be doing one of the most renowned movies of all time.
Well, there is a reason for it.
Yes.
Which we can kind of bring up. We are doing Mank.
We are doing Mank.
Which is the Netflix film that was just dropped. We're doing that for our new movie Monday coming up.
Yes.
This will be the last episode of this week. So.
Which is about the dispute between the writers of Orson Welles and Mank writing Citizen Kane.
Right. Well,
so we have a reason.
Yeah, and that was something crazy too with this. And you know, so many, in all reality, so many people have done a review on Citizen Kane.
There's miles
Yeah.
of articles, books, essays,
Right.
everything you could possibly name has been written and dissected about Citizen Kane.
Yeah. So there's really nothing that we can add on to where you're going to be like, wow, I didn't know that about Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
But however, we are talking about it because it is one of those pivotal films in the movie industry, and it was so ahead of its time that I really feel like, you know, as a movie podcast, we should be talking about these classics, even though everyone has already talked about it, and there's pretty much nothing you won't find out if you've ever watched or listened to a review on Citizen Kane.
No, and it's not like we're hard-hitting journalists, so we're really not uncovering anything new.
No, we're not.
It's like we dug in and talked to Wells or Orson Welles' family.
Yeah, no.
So
it's awesome.
Really, you're not getting anything new, but
something cool. If you guys are watching on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, we are actually in black and white.
Yeah, we should have if we ever. Of course, we don't edit because we don't do much. But if we ever did editing, we could have edited in like the sound of the radio, you know, the beep 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 beep.
Yeah.
We could have done that at the very start. It would have been cool.
Well, I have this soundboard here. I probably should have. No, we don't. We are negligent when it comes to the sound.
We should add that sound because then anytime we do a news or anything, we could do the beep beep. Like we're getting it into the
something phoning in.
Yeah. Like we're 1930s. We're getting it in on the wire, I guess. But very memorable opening of Citizen Kane. Yes. Of course, it was directed by Orson Welles.
Right. Wrote, direct, starred in.
Yeah. He's a mountain of a man. He was 24 when he directed this. 24. I think what I was doing when I was 24, not comparable.
Not even close.
Not real comparable.
I didn't have my life figured out. Still don't. I'm 26.
But this is a guy that looked like he had everything figured out very early in life. My God, dude. But to be honest, doesn't look 24.
No, he does not.
People are aged a little different back then. Looks 34.
He does.
At his youngest. It's insane this guy's 24.
He was dealing with a lot of shit on set, too, when it came to... he actually had caffeine poisoning because this man would drink according to reports, 30 to 40 cups of coffee a day where he got caffeine poisoning.
Yeah, he was.
And then switched to tea, drank too much tea.
Very unhealthy.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't catch up to him for a while. Obviously, he had a great metabolism, but it caught up to him. He was very heavy when he died.
He was.
And even at the end of his life, he was always pretty heavy. But he's a big guy, especially for this time.
Yes.
I mean, the 40s. He's a huge fucking guy. But yeah, if you want to go and read the most interesting Wikipedia page, go back and read Orson Welles. It reads like a fucking adventure novel. he like backpacked around Europe in his like teens. He rubbed shoulders with like Hitler and Churchill and Stalin and stuff.
Yeah.
He just has one of those Wikipedia pages where he was.
He's like the 1940s Forrest Gump, except extremely artistic.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And not slow
Slow
mentally.
in any capacity. No,
But,
just in the adventure aspect of things. Yes.
But yeah, it's an amazing Wikipedia page. He did everything. The guy was, and not to mention before this, he did the famous War of the Worlds broadcast.
Yes, he did.
That was so ahead of its time.
One scared a lot of people too.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It was so ahead of its time. He uses sound effects. It didn't break. It was really the first podcast.
It was. Yeah.
It didn't break for commercial or anything like that. So it fucking scared the shit out of a lot of people. He was a genius. I would have loved watching Citizen Kane. I would have loved to seen what he could have done nowadays, because everything he was doing in 1940s, we are still doing today. With the camera angles,
Yes.
the special effects, the makeup, it was so ahead of its time.
Well, and that's the thing. And again, we can't say anything that's already been said, but man, the cinematography in this, and this is so ahead of its time. I mean, these shots were beautifully done.
Yeah.
In 1941.
Yes.
During World War II, excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to talk about December 7th, 1941,
the big
Pearl
one.
Harbor and everything, and then I just said one for whatever reason. But during World War II, it's just, it is absolutely blows my mind how beautifully done this was.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing too, like it's the little things. It's the nuanced things where he's shooting above, or down, like for weak characters, he was shooting down,
and shoots above whenever it was him or anyone else that was high society.
Exactly.
But
it's those little things.
And that's something that we don't bat an eye at nowadays.
Yeah.
Those creative camera angles and whatnot. But they were literally inventing this shit.
Yeah.
And that's this time where the camera was very static, it stayed in one place during scenes and kind of just tilted around characters, Yeah. It was, so he had tracking shots and all that were very fucking ahead of its time.
And when characters would get mad too, this is something you didn't see before 1941. When characters would get mad, he'd zoom in.
Yeah.
To like show the anger and aggression, and then the softer it approaches, he would zoom out, or pull back the camera. And even these exterior shots too, like the famous one where he comes up on the sign and then goes through the sign and down into they used to have like windows on top of ceilings, and then he comes down through the roof, and it's just like, wow, his fades were even brilliant. I cannot fathom being in 1941 and putting a film like this together. Now, is this the most compelling story? Because people talk about this all the time. They talk about, is this the greatest film of all time? And a lot of people's consensus say it is, especially the fact that on Rotten Tomato, it's got 100%. And I would agree with that as far as technically.
Yeah.
It's not the most compelling story in the world. Like, this story isn't going to blow your mind and be like, wow, I've never seen a story like this. But it's the execution of it that is just flawless.
Well, mostly it's because of, by now the story has been ruined by a lot of people, because it's been
everyone knows what Rosebud means.
Yeah, it's been satired, and it's been satired by everything. I mean, The Simpsons, Family. I mean, everything has done a satire of Citizen Kane. Yeah. Any TV show, they always do a Citizen Kane episode or whatever. It's been satired so much, so I think that's what takes away from the story. But when it came out in 1941, though, that whole Rosebud and the twists and everything, not seeing that fucking blew people's mind.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was incredible. I enjoy the story.
Think about the ending, too, because it's somewhat satisfying for the audience, but also not satisfying because the characters within that world never knew what Rosebud meant.
Yeah.
So you get a satisfying ending, but also kind of not.
Well, I think for the audience, you definitely do. For no one involved in the film, it's not. But for the audience, you do, because you get the sense that the entire film, and that's why it remains so relevant today, is the entire film, this guy was so rich, he had everything in the world, but on his deathbed, the last thing he remembered was the simplest time of his life.
Away. Yep.
Yeah, was the sleigh. I mean, just that one that he got from his poor family.
Yep.
His family that lived fucking out in the middle of nowhere, which is another effect that they had to invent, was showing like the vastness and the isolation of his cabin and how it kind of felt when he was being taken away from this. He could never come back to this land or whatever. And that's what it felt, because when you see with the cabin, it's like empty for miles, they're in the middle of nowhere.
And that's to bring up that cabin scene too. This was Orson Welles' first film that he directed. Okay. But again, we go back to the little details. Even back in 1941, he was upset on set that he couldn't have the cold breath being showed because they shot this in a studio.
Yeah. It brings to my mind, like, what could he have done today? Because that's something that, of course...
He'd be the most prolific filmmaker of all time.
Well, I think he would just fit in perfectly with what people are doing today. Because those small details now are details that, Scorsese or Tarantino or anyone would have to put in. But they just didn't have the technology then.
No.
They just couldn't do it. But he knew, even back then, that even though no one would have given a fuck, because that was never a thing in movies.
Nope.
I mean, movies were shot in snow, but it was always on a stage.
Yeah.
But for him to pick up on that so early it's just way ahead of his time.
It is.
He's very, very smart. I would have loved to see, although he had so many good movies, even past Citizen Kane, I would have just loved to see what he could have done, 80s onward.
And the technology that we have now.
Yeah.
Like
He would have to invent so much because he invented, I think it's called the deep fade camera angle, where the camera angle zooms in, one guy is in, and one guy in the back is in frame, but the guy in front is still, but it's blurred out. They invented that.
Yeah, they did.
Which
literally.
you see in every fucking movie now.
We still use that technique today.
I can't remember what it's called. It's called deep something, but I can't remember what it's called. Like deep blur, I think. But it's incredible that they fucking did that on the fucking whim on the stage. Like, how are we going to do this? It's amazing to me. Yeah. But that's why that's why he got so many good people to work with him when he was so young, is because he knew nothing about filmmaking. So he didn't know what was possible and impossible. So he would just go down there and be like, okay, I want this to happen. And instead of people going, well, no, it's impossible. It can't happen. He had no idea. He was just ignorance. So that's how he got really good cinematographers and stuff, because they're like, this guy will let me do whatever I want to do because he doesn't know any better. Yeah. There's a funny interview of him talking where he's like, first day he was like, Orson Welles went on stage and he was doing the lighting himself. And someone came down and they're like, no, directors don't do this.
Yeah. Like, we had people for that.
Yeah, he was like doing like the painting and stuff he was doing because he had no fucking clue what he was doing at all. And he literally said he picked it up. He's like, yeah, you can pick up all filmmaking in a day. Yeah. He said on stage, he's like, you can pick up everything. But that's why it was just the perfect combination of things. He got so many famous people to work on this because no one would normally work with a guy that's never done anything.
No. And he had to deal with the production company too.
Well, he had to deal with William Randall Hearst.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people know about that because Foster Kane is based on William Randall Hearst, the newspaper tycoon. He has a fucking wild Wikipedia page too.
Hearst?
He is Citizen Kane. At first they were like, it's based on a combination. It is fucking William Randall Hearst. Hearst has he had a mansion, or he had a castle called the Hearst Castle that he was building before he died, just like Xanadu. The castle that's there's to a T, it's exactly fucking him. But imagine that today. Imagine someone doing a movie about like Jeff Bezos, not calling it his name, but it's exactly it. It couldn't happen.
No,
I don't think it got. But yeah, William Randall Hearst did everything he fucking could, and this guy is like the father of scandalous media, yellow journalism.
Yeah,
he did everything he could. He called
him a communist,
which is relevant even in Citizen Kane, because that's what his political opponent does in Citizen Kane, calls him a communist when he's trying to deframe him. That's exactly what William Hearst did. And that's exactly what people are still doing today. When you don't agree with someone, you call them
a communist, call him whatever.
That's why this film remains so fucking relevant. It's because it's timely. You can watch it at any time, and you could still be like, oh shit, that stuff's still happening today, especially with the capitalism stuff and whatnot. But yeah, William Randall Hearst, he did some wild shit to prevent this from happening, and he almost succeeded.
Did you know Orson Welles and William Randolph Hearst were in an elevator at one point, and Orson Welles extended an invitation to let William Randall Hearst come to the premiere. Hearst turned down the offer, and as he was exiting the elevator, at his floor, Wellson's remark, Charles Foster Kane would have accepted.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that by now. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was. I think that's a really good fucking end to that. If you're going to make a documentary, I mean, obviously there's been a million documentaries about Siskin, but that's the perfect ending of him, like, getting the last dig. Because the shit he tried to do, he tried to frame Orson Welles. He had a 14-year-old girl in his room at a hotel.
That he was going to take a picture of.
He was going to take a picture of. And, like, one of the bus boys or someone was like, don't go up to her room. Yeah. And Orson Welles left the hotel immediately.
He stayed somewhere else.
I'm not getting Me Too'd. He's like,
fuck that. Hey, look, I'm ahead of my time in every aspect.
He really was.
Yeah,
he really fucking was. Because fucking, if that was Weinstein.
That's such a treacherous thing to do, though.
Oh,
that's such a treacherous thing to do. Well, like, to literally frame someone. He's going to have a naked girl jump in his arms and then take a photo real quick. That's evil. That's
but
that's
it's hard to imagine, but it's hard to fathom how much power William Randall. I mean, he had the power of Citizen Kane. He had the power of
and the news.
He owned 60 different newspapers. He was one of the richest men in America. You know, he was this huge. He ran just like Kane. He ran for governor, and he lost because something came out that he was having an affair with someone, just like Kane. Yep. He based that off him, but he murdered a guy too. Do you know about that?
I did not know about that.
So there's a movie based off of it too. It's called The Cat's Meow.
We might have to review that too now.
So William Randall Hearst had an affair with someone named, her name is like Maisie or something, but she was an actress and a singer. But that was what ruined his campaign. Was it came out that he was having an affair with this woman, and it ruined his governor campaign. Just like in Citizen Kane, remember it comes out that he's having an affair with the singer,
right?
But so he was having an affair with. He never married this lady, but he's always constantly having an affair with. So one day they're on a yacht with a bunch of famous people, on William Randall Hearst's yacht with a bunch of famous people, and this lady that he's always had an affair with was sleeping with Charlie Chaplin on the yacht.
Oh no!
Yeah, So William Randall Hearst walks into the room, and it's William Randall Hearst's yacht. Walks in the room while they're fucking, and again, this is his mistress, not his wife.
Right.
So William Randall Hearst, he grabs a gun, tries to shoot Charlie Chaplin, shoots a different guy, is a really famous director of the time. That guy dies. For years, it was covered up. William Randall Hearst paid everyone off on the yacht. And he made a bunch of articles, and no one knew how this guy died for years.
Oh, my God.
It's a wild fucking story, dude.
That would almost be a good biography film.
It is.
Oh, yeah, dude, that's what you just said. The Cat's Meow.
Yeah, The Cat's Meow, yeah.
Who plays Charlie Chaplin in that?
I don't know, but Kirsten Dunst is in it. She plays his mistress.
Right.
But
what year was that made? How did I not hear about this?
That was made in 2001, and it was made.
That's probably why.
It was made by Orson Welles. Orson Welles only told this story because that was going to be a scene in Citizen Kane.
Oh.
And Orson Welles just randomly cut everything out of it and destroyed all the fucking footage. And he only told one guy, his best friend. That guy directed The Cat's Meow.
Wow.
Yeah, so he has all the stories of. Yeah, I don't know how good that movie is, The Cat's Meow, but that it tells a story of that.
Mm-hmm.
But 8
well, that's
years
even
later,
interesting enough. Even if it's a B movie, I'm curious about that story. That's wild, man.
Yeah, there was even a journalist on the yacht, and William Randall Hearst immediately turned to her and he goes, "You don't tell anyone. I'll give you a job for life at any newspaper you want." And she took it. Yeah, the guy was a big director. The guy that got shot. So it's kind of comical.
Yeah, I mean,
I can only imagine Charlie Chaplin running around in his the tramp outfit,
slinging that big dick around,
slinging his dick and the cane like he does a little mustache.
Just got the hat on. That's it.
Yeah, William Randall, he can't shoot him. It's like a bit. It's like pew pew pew. Eventually hits some other guy.
It's that
tragic.
silent film death.
Yeah, and he falls over the yacht. But probably
Did they discard the body? Or did they bring the body back into the yacht?
that's a good question.
Because, dude, if you're gonna, I mean, hey, I'm no expert in how to murder someone and get away with it.
I don't.
You figure you dump the body in 1930.
It's very possible. They said he died later of his wounds, so I don't know if maybe they made it look like it was something else that happened, like it was an accident or something. But yeah,
just take your. I'd rather just.
I mean, just imagine the most powerful man in the world commits. I mean, one of them commits murder.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you
What's
have
it gonna
60
happen?
different
On his
papers on your
yacht.
side,
Yeah.
you are one of the most powerful people in the world.
And that's what
you can control the narrative.
And that's what he did with Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane flopped at when it
did
opened for box
initially,
because
yeah.
it couldn't open in theaters because this was a time when this whole time in Hollywood's very interesting, very corrupt. Studios had so much fucking power. You think studios have power now? Go back then. Studios owned all the theaters back then. Mm-hmm. So 21st century, they owned the theater chains. Eventually, the government made that illegal to where studios can't own theaters. But because he had so much power that he got a bunch of theaters not to play Citizen Kane, so it flopped. But anyone that wasn't under his power, his newspaper, gave it an amazing review. But when it was at the Oscars, it was nominated for 9 Oscars.
And only won.
But every time they said the name, people booed.
Yeah, they booed.
That's how much power he fucking had. He's like Weinstein times 100.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't understand this. Yeah, as you said, it was nominated 9 times, only won 1 award, and the one that it won was Best Writing and Original Screenplay. How does this not win as Best Director? How does this not win as Best Picture?
because of William Randall Hearst.
Yeah, it had to have been. It had to have been. It's so political.
He did everything in his power to have this destroyed. He went to the head guy of RKO and said, "I'll pay you anything for the originals." But the only reason it didn't happen was by then, because Orson Welles, he knew this was all happening. So for the first few days, he told the studio that he was just auditioning, or not auditioning, but they were just going through lines. And really, he was shooting.
Yeah, the rehearsal.
Because he knew it was going to get shut down.
Yep.
Yeah, because he knew it would get shut down eventually. And he was right. They did. It was because of the corruption. But it just, again, the perfectly randomness. He went out already and showed it to a bunch of people. So people were already giving it away good reviews. So they had to release it in some capacity. But yeah, could you imagine this film never seeing the light of day?
It'd be a travesty.
And how many films probably have never seen the light of day from something like this happening?
Probably a few.
Oh, absolutely. I would, for sure. Anyone disagrees with, they could have just destroyed it. But yeah, it would have been crazy.
It would have been. The original nitrate negatives were lost in a fire in the 1970s. It's very sad.
Yes, nitrate is like 800 times more flammable than paper. That's why you always hear
So it
about
went up
fires
quick.
happening in vaults of movies, because they're very fucking, they don't use nitrate anymore.
No, they
I mean, it's digital mostly now, but yeah, there's been a lot of great films that people can't even see now because they never got the chance to make them into VHS or DVDs because they've been lost too. Universal has burned down like 3 times.
Yeah.
They've had a ton of fires.
It's been rough. Rebuild is what they say, right?
Yeah,
you
they've
gotta
had
rebuild
a
few
lot
times.
of fucking fires, but
Let's talk about the score for this film too. Really, again, ahead of its time. This was Bernard Herrmann's first film that he scored. Since this film had gone on to do things up until the 70s.
yes.
But wow, that was one thing that captivated me too, was the score for this. I really felt like it was ahead of its time, and it always cued on the right moments too within the story. It never distracted me. It never made me take me up, because like when you watch older movies, sometimes the score can be like whoa, 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 and you're just like, oh my god, it's just like deafening. Yeah. I thought he did a really good job of cueing in the right moments throughout this. I didn't feel like it was overplayed.
It's just like a really good score you would hear today.
Yes,
exactly. He was really good. Bernard Herrmann. He went on to do a lot of work with Alfred Hitchcock. He did Psycho, North by Northwest, and those are all renowned for their score. But yeah, just crazy. Again, just this crazy combination of talent that he got. Because this was, like you said, his first movie of scoring anything. And he went on to have this fucking massive career. Yeah. And almost all the actors in this film were actors from
theater.
Orson Welles theater
Yes.
that he started. And this is how ahead Orson Welles was. He did an all black version of Macbeth in the early 30s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. He really was.
He was
completely ahead of his
very
time.
progressive.
Yeah.
Orson Welles was extremely progressive. Yeah. That's why he's really the liberal part of Citizen Kane in that, where he's trying to help people and whatnot. And that's another thing why I don't understand why fucking William Randall Hearst gets so mad. Obviously, it shows Foster Kane in a bad light.
Yeah.
But it shows, how much he like tried to help people and whatnot, and how just over these years, this combination of shit happened where he just became more and more of a capitalist and less of a someone that gives more. Because at first he's talking about giving to the worker and whatnot.
Right.
But one of the best scenes is when the guy comes in drunk to confront him.
His friend, Jedediah.
Yeah, when he comes in and confronts him, but he gives a very powerful speech talking about you don't want these people to have rights. You want to give them gifts. You don't want to make them feel like they have a right to all of these things. You want to gift them. That's exactly how it is today, too.
Yeah.
Billionaires would rather give donations than have taxes taken out.
Right. Yeah.
So they can say they're giving a gift rather than the government just has a right to this money.
Or they get bailed out.
Yeah.
And then lay off, as we were talking about earlier, lay off 50,000 people.
It's the exact same thing. That's again why it remains so relevant, because he hit the fucking head on the nail. Yeah, for sure.
Or head on the nail. How
For talking about exactly. Very powerful. Still very good dialogue.
Yes, very good.
Mink did a great job, and that guy.
I thought Orson Welles is a very good actor too. There were a lot of close-up scenes where you could just see the emotion on his face.
Yeah,
and I love the scene where she leaves. His mistress, who turns into his wife, leaves, and then he just destroys the room. And I guess in that actual take, his hands were all bloodied from like breaking glass and stuff and hitting things. He said he really felt that moment. But that was a great scene, and done in one take too.
Yeah. Well, we talk about fucking like how after like the 60s and whatnot is when we really started getting like method acting. Like people that weren't just this one-dimensional character or whatever. And this guy was doing it in the fucking 40s. Yeah. And not that, but a lot of these casts were doing the same thing. For that scene I just talked about where he comes in drunk, Jedediah, and he stayed up 24 hours previous for that, and that gave the element of, him being drunk, Yep. So they were doing these fucking things that other actors were not doing at the time, like really going crazy, on screen. But only did that in one take where he destroyed the whole room. Yeah, had to. His hands were destroyed.
They were.
But
you know something that I can't help, and I know it's obvious, it's in your face, like I get it, but when I watch movies from like 1940s, and then like I see the little boy, Kane as a little boy, and I look up that actor, and even that actor has passed.
Of course.
I know, but it's just,
everyone in The Wizard of Oz is dead.
I know, but it's one of those things looking and just watching so many human beings and knowing that they're all dead. It's weird. And like to watch their performances and stuff and seeing them at a young age and to think that was almost 100 years ago.
Yeah,
we're
80
about
years.
80 something years ago now. It's just, I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah. Well, a lot of films, don't, especially films from the 40s. I don't know how many I've seen, but a lot of films from the 40s, they don't hold up as nearly as well as Citizen Kane. I mean, you can't.
No.
Again, this one was way, way a fucking ahead of its time. But yeah, you can't. I mean, these days it's insane to even compare the two because they're so different. But one thing that happened was it didn't do well in the States, but fucking France loved this film. France is a little more in tune to the art. Yeah, so and that's again why I talk about the perfect combination of things happening. This came out in 1941, didn't get over to Europe till 46, but it was the perfect time for this kind of fucking film. It didn't even take
off in the States till the 50s.
Yeah,
people didn't start really recognizing.
And back then, if a film was good, they released it like every 2 years.
Yeah, it would just keep
They never released. They pretty much shelved it
because obviously, you know, they're not making production like they do now with Netflix and all that kind of stuff where you have thousands of films a year. You could get away with that back in 1941.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They showed Gone with the Wind every 2 years.
I think they're still showing that in theaters.
They do. They really do. But they did not show. It's so bizarre. You couldn't find this fucking film if you wanted to go see it. But they loved it in fucking France. But again, it happened right after the war. So it was like this perfect time for this film to come out.
Yeah.
Because it was so, but yeah, they loved it. And because of they loved it in France, because so many people were giving it good reviews, came back in the 50s and then fucking finally it blew up.
Alrighty, well.
Yeah, I don't know what else we can talk about.
Yeah, I know. Nothing that's never, or that hasn't.
One thing we didn't talk about is the makeup. The makeup was fantastic for this. And
again,
incredible. You do not see that kind of
aging.
thing. Yeah, you do not. Because all these people were in their fucking 20 to 30s, you know, all the actors, but they all played their old selves as well.
Yeah, and they did good, even with the bags under her eyes and Kane looking old.
You don't even see that good of makeup nowadays in a lot of shit. A lot of the stuff is like good, but yeah. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. And too, when she committed suicide, or tried to commit suicide rather, and she's laying in the bed, she looked awful. They did a great job with that though, because she looked awful. She had looked like someone who had just taken poison. You know, I was just like,
they might have. It might have been William Randall Hearst
just poisoning the actress. Unfortunately,
poisoning everyone on set.
Brutal.
Yeah, because we know that guy was not afraid to.
No. Oh yeah. No. Well, you have infinite power.
I can only assume how many people that guy actually murdered.
Well, actually murdered and probably took advantage of too. Unfortunately, this guy definitely should have started the hashtag Me Too back then.
They didn't have it. They didn't have Twitter.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, that's Citizen Kane. Again, we did this whole thing because we are gonna do Mank. And I've only seen Citizen Kane like 2 or 3 times maybe. So it's
in
nice.
Its entirety 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, so it's nice to get a refresher, and now we can go in and watch a new movie directed by David Fincher. I already know it's gonna be fucking great because it's David Fincher and he can't do anything wrong.
Well, and that was the thing with me too. It's like if we're gonna watch Mank, I was gonna watch Citizen Kane again anyway, so we might as well just do a review on it. It worked out because we didn't have anything for Throwback.
But now I'm really excited because I'm really excited to see behind the scenes because what we were just talking about was mostly behind the scenes things.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm really excited to see how David Fincher, he does that so well with the set designs, and I'm excited to see. I don't know who plays Orson Welles.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That's always an exciting thing when someone, because he's been played a lot, but. Yeah, I don't know who's going to play him. We know Gary Oldman is playing Mank, which is it's a hit. That's a hit. That's already.
I think Gary Oldman's pretty good actor.
Yeah, he's all right.
Say so myself.
He's
not
all
bad,
right. He's all right.
Been in some questionable films.
Well, Tiptoes.
Tiptoes, yes.
Tiptoes was not great.
You know, the YouTube algorithms are hilarious. I was refreshing.
Yeah.
And literally after I watched that video, there were like 3 videos. One of the worst movies of all time. One of the worst Gary Oldman movies of all time.
The trailer does not give it justice. It really is fucking awful.
Well, when you literally have to shoot a film on your knees, like, come on.
But when the trailer says Gary Oldman's role of a lifetime,
that's an immediate red flag.
When he had done so much good stuff already. It's a bold statement. Bold quote.
Yeah.
For sure. But all right. If you haven't watched Citizen Kane, I think I would recommend it.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Go and watch Citizen Kane. All right, well, that is our review for Citizen Kane. If you guys like what you're seeing here and you're watching on YouTube, congrats. You get to see this black and white. It's pretty cool. And if you're just listening on audio, I would recommend going on YouTube, subscribing to the channel, and check out this video because it's in black and white, and it is our first official black and white review.
Yes, it is.
So that's pretty cool.
And that's on purpose.
On purpose.
We're not just going black and white now because we can't afford color.
Well, color's a little more pricey. A little more pricey. So we're going back to black and white. No, but go subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you guys want to find our podcast in audio format, we're on every big platform: Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. Social media pages, Have You Seen It podcast. And if you guys want some Have You Seen It merch like this sweatshirt I'm wearing here, you guys can find that in the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Mason Knight. That is Cash Kraus, and until next time.
Bye.